Everybody, thanks for coming. Please be sure you pick up all the handouts on your way if you haven't already done it. I think we'll schedule for later today on the rack out there also. We'll have a few opening remarks and we'll take your questions. And be sure to raise your hand on the questions for a microphone.
Thanks, Claude. What a great time to be a dog. Spring season's in full effect, and I think all you guys know what a great record a lot of our spring sports are having, and I want to bring a lot of attention to the women's tennis team, two in the country, just coming off an indoor national championship. What an incredible job done. Baseball's killing it. Gymnastics top 10. Golf men's team just actually won a tournament, top 50 country. Track's doing well, as they always do. Equestrian's the same way, and softball as well. So I think it's pretty what all of our spring sports are doing and continue to do. And, momentum's created when you build strong organizations, and that's what we've got here at the University of Georgia. So when you look across the athletic department, including the football program, we want to be a team that has momentum. I'm excited about the program. We've kind of had a motto we've been saying around here for the last couple months that if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And we've gone with that because we need to be challenged. We need to be focused on challenging good players, challenging players that are young, challenging players that just got here, because we got a lot of all those categories. I'm really proud of the off-season conditioning program. Coach Sinclair's done a tremendous job, and I think anytime you talk to strength coaches, they'll always tell you how much gains they made, and you're like, well, if you're always making gains, do you ever have a down off-season? But it was nice for us, I think, for the first time we went from 32 guys that could press over 300 pounds to 34. So we're 2 higher than we were this time last year. Power clean, same way, from 30 guys to 32 guys that could power clean over a certain amount. And then also the same squats. A lot of increases in our strength program. We've got 14 mid-year enrollees, which is extremely unique for me. I don't know that I've ever been part of a program that had 14 mid-year enrollees. Unfortunately, a couple of those guys are unable to go through spring ball with injuries. But the off-season conditioning program was great. We had really good energy, and now we're kind of moving to the phase of spring practice. And I know the players are so excited to get out there and go practice because there's so much you can do in the weight room and in conditioning and in walkthroughs before you're ready to go play with the football. And that's what these guys love to do. So we've got a few guys with injuries that'll be out this spring. I'd like to go through those, but I'm sure if I don't hit one or if there's somebody you want to ask about, feel free to ask. But we've got several guys that'll be out. Mikhail Carter had shoulder surgery, had a labor repair, so he'll be out. Everybody knows about Ryan Davis coming in, one of our enrollees who had the knee injury, and he's had surgical repair. Rylan Godin will be out. Prather Hudson had shoulder labor repair. He'll be out. Tresman, another mid-year enrollee that's out with the shoulder repair. Julian Rochester had a knee that he's had repaired. He'll be out for spring practice. Zamir is coming back, doing really well, but he won't be doing spring practice other than doing some stuff on the side, doing some running, and he's done a lot of off-season conditioning, but he won't be out there or cleared to go practice. I think that hits the guys that are like out, like aren't able to practice. We've got a few hamstring injuries. Guys are nursing those, but they should be able to go and practice and should be fine for the most part with those guys. But the early enrollees have been a very impressive group from a standpoint of work ethic. Now, some of them can't work. I mean, the guys that I just mentioned, there's some things they can do and can't do, but the ones that can have really worked hard, and I think they create a lot of competition. A couple things we want to establish this spring. We want to increase our havoc rate on defense. That's one of the main target areas. We want to be more disruptive, and the only way to be more disruptive is practice being disruptive. So we've got to do that. We've got to create more lost yardage plays, more negative situations, and something we've really harped on. We've done studies on the top 10 teams last year in Havoc, and we're trying to do some of the things they do, and we're trying to put guys in positions to do that. Offensively, we've got some holes to fill, especially at the receiver spot and some at the running back spot and tight end spot. So we're excited about the challenges. I'm really excited about seeing the new wideouts go out and compete and play, and unfortunately there are no early guys in at that position, so we'll see a lot of them in fall camp, but there's a lot of guys been here that haven't had the opportunity to really go out and play at the forefront and being thrust to the forefront. So that's a big position of need for us, and we're going to get to watch those guys compete. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Hey, Kirby, you talk about the holes to fill offensively. Can you talk about how you attack that with the late signing period and grad transfer market?
Yeah, I'm not really allowed to comment on the grad transfer market because nothing's done. You know, they're not signed, they're not physically here yet, so we can't comment on those guys. But the two guys we picked up late in the signing process with and George, we certainly think are very high caliber players. We knew a lot about both of them. You know, George is a guy that fit what we did. He really was intrigued by the fact that we had the guy come out early, and he knew that he fit in our style system. And we think he's a talented player that we're looking forward to working with. And Brett's a guy that really came on the radar late, was kind of a late bloomer, had a really good senior year, a really good athlete. I mean, I like the fact that he played both ways on his tape. Extremely competitive, was able to watch him work out during the recruiting process in January, and he's just impressive physically and a competitor. And they're both at positions of need. You know, you wish they were here now, but the way college football works, guys getting here in early June, you know, they'll have 2 months of really good work to build up. So whether or not they'll be able to contribute this year, I don't know that we know that. I think we're going to try to find that out with the guys we've got here on our roster right now in the spring.
Coach, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your changes on your coaching staff. Obviously, new coordinators, and 3 new coordinators technically, and just wondering if those were a result of extensive worldwide searches, or you knew what you wanted to do and kind of from the outset, this is kind of what you had your mind on.
Well, I don't think you ever know what you want to do. You're always being prepared as a coach. You know, guys get opportunities. I've known for quite a while that Mel Tucker was going to do a tremendous job as a head coach. I mean, he was a guy I was able to lean on, especially early in this process. I think first I'd say congratulations to Mel and Jim, but also thank them for what they helped us build thus far. They're both tremendous assets. They were really great guys, great team players, and bought into the whole organization. So, but when it comes to Dan, Glenn, sharing that responsibility with Dan, coordinator, and then Coley, who's been a coordinator, and I've known James Coley for a long time, got a lot of respect for him. You know, he worked with Jimbo for a long time, had an opportunity to go with Jimbo the year before. So, and really, at the end of the day, when you have coordinator on offense and you have 2 guys that are doing it like Jim and James did, they shared a lot of that responsibility, and a lot of that responsibility will be passed down now with Dale and has been involved. And I've had a lot of confidence in Dan and Glenn even last year. You know, not everybody knows what goes on behind the scenes, and I think that's okay that not everybody knows that. But as a head coach, you're in all these meetings, in all these decisions. You know how much involved Dan Lanning and Glenn Schumann in the game planning process. Mel will tell you he leans on those guys heavily, so I have a lot of confidence in those 2 guys, which is why they've been hired.
Coach, more specifically on Coach Coley, what kind of personality differences do you think that he can bring to your offensive attack?
Personality, the offense, or his personality?
The offense.
Yeah, look, we've been really successful at running the ball. Who we are at Georgia, so we're not going to go create the wheel and say, okay, well now we're going to open up the empty spread team down and go high tempo. You do what makes you successful. And he had a meeting with the offense yesterday in which I sat in. He talked about balance. What is balance? People think balance means 50-50. That balance is not 50-50. Balance is being able to run the ball when you have to run the ball and being able to throw the ball when you have to throw the ball. So can you do both? Yes, you can be successful at both. That might be 70-30 one game and then 30-70 the other way the next game. So I think we're going to be successful at that because I think that's going to be based on having good players. But I don't think that we're going to say, okay, we're throwing out everything we've done, we're starting over. We really had one coach on the offensive side of the ball, and every year when you go reinvent yourself, you say, okay, who are my best players? How are we going to get them the ball? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are the things we got to really work on? And we've done that for almost 2 months now because our signing class was pretty much done in January. We've been working on us and saying, okay, what can we do better? And I think James brings a lot to the table. They've gone and visited with a lot of people to get new ideas.
Kirby, obviously some change on offense, personnel-wise. What are you thinking at center in terms of placing Lamont Geiger?
Trey Hill played against Kentucky. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind is here's a guy who played in a go win the SEC East type game against a really tough defense, and he was thrown and thrust right into the limelight. So we'll have a group by committee. We'll be working 3 guys there a lot of time. Clay will get some reps. Mario will get reps there. Trey will get reps there. We'll have a lot of guys working through there, but Trey's the guy I've been walking through and taking the most reps, and he's got experience already, which is valuable.
Coach, as you speak about Scott Sinclair and the job that he does in the off season, how important is that leading into spring practice? And do you have kind of a story or a memory where it shows how much trust you have to get your players prepared?
Well, I don't know that I have a story to indicate that, but I think anytime you hire a strength coach and you give them the freedom to choose their workout plan, we talk, daily during the off-season conditioning program of what do we need. Well, I'm taking the input from a guy who's a master strength coach. There's only so many of those in the country, and we're fortunate to have 2 here that are master strength coaches. And I think when you rely on experience and value, and that's what you're fortunate at the University of Georgia, that you can hire people like that with great experience, that you compete with the best in the market to keep your coaches and keep your strength guys. But he does a tremendous job. He provides energy. He provides discipline. He spends more time one-on-one with players than probably anybody in our program with he and his staff. And I think they've done a tremendous job. Our guys ready, and it's a big part of it. I'm always worried this practice because we're coming off spring break, so it's always like, well, we do all that build up, get ready, and then you've got a week off, and then you've got to come back and get ready to go practice. So we'll have to kind of push these guys to get them back in the playing shape they need to be in, but his staff's done a great job.
Coach, talking about the offensive side of the ball, a couple Central Georgia players, talking about that receiver room, could you talk about the potential of Kearis Jackson and also talk about just the confidence you have in Jake going forward?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a common theme. You guys are going to ask me 1,000 times about the receivers over the next whatever number of days this is. I think Kearis is a guy that's going to have to come out, compete, and he's going to get plenty of opportunities, because when you look at the production gone, who's going to replace that production? Well, first in line are the guys that are here right now, not necessarily the 3 or 4 guys that are coming in. So I'm extremely excited about Kearis' work ethic. He was a guy that was really in the rotation last year, and then all of a sudden had a hamstring in camp, and it kind of held him back. But I'm excited to see what he does, and there's a lot of other wideouts I could say, and hey, these guys are going to go out there and have we're going to find out what they're about. We'll see if they can go out and compete and go against the best and make plays. But excited about Jake, the growth he's been able to give us. He's really been tremendous help for the other 2 quarterbacks that are here, and obviously we've got a lot of confidence in Jake in our offensive system and his understanding of thing.
Kirby, it seems like this time every year you're talking about needing to find leadership. Do you feel like this is kind of the season going in? You've got a pretty good feeling about your leaders, and then can you elaborate maybe on a few of those guys?
Yeah, I've never felt great about leadership at this point in time. I didn't feel great 2 years ago. I didn't feel great last year. I think you can't find true leadership, and you can't manipulate it. You can't make it happen. So it happens through adversity, and you have to create the adversity. So in all season, we try to create adversity. Hey, something happened. We had a turnover. We got to go back out here and do this on some kind of conditioning drill. But you never get to really do that until adversity strikes, which adversity, the first time it really happens, is spring ball, when you're out there scrimmaging and something goes wrong and they hit a play. How are you going to respond? You get tired of practicing, practice 8 or 9 or 10. Who's going to respond? Who's going to lead? I think we've worked really hard on that, but I think that has to reveal itself. I don't think you can appoint leadership. Now, we've got guys who've played a lot of games around here. That doesn't make them a good leader. We've got to have guys that are willing to step up and do the things they have to do to demand of others, and usually when you have that, you have a pretty good team.
You got any sort of leading the back there?
Yeah, I mean, we got several guys I think that are good leaders that aren't afraid to speak up, but I'm not interested in naming them. I want them to earn it. I want them to go out there and continue to do it. I don't think you appoint that. I don't think it's something that's given. That's something that's earned.
Kirby, I have a couple questions for you. First, just talked about Jake. Could you tell me who's going to get the most reps behind him?
Yeah, the 2 quarterbacks are going to get the reps behind him. DeJuan Mathis and Stetson Bennett are both going to get a ton of reps. To say most, I don't know that we could say most. They'll get the same amount behind him. But those two guys are working as well. John Sutter, who's one of our walk-ons, that'll get reps as well.
Were you surprised at all? We haven't talked to you since, I guess, when you guys played in the playoffs, or not the playoffs, I apologize, in postseason play, but were you to see all of those guys declare for the NFL early?
I don't know, surprised would be the right word. I'm certainly very thrilled for the future of their careers. We're looking forward to see how they do. They've got a huge day tomorrow, so they'll be doing their pro day here. Followed each one of them, communicated with each one of them, and we as a coaching staff and really organization are pulling really hard for those guys. The best thing that can happen for us is for each one of those guys to be drafted as high as possible and for our program, and we're looking forward to having a hell of a draft because we've got a potential a lot of guys drafted. So the better those guys do tomorrow, the better the chance is of that.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned the injuries off the top. I wanted to follow up on James Cook and Dave Marshall. Can you tell us what their status is?
Yeah, James will be fine. He's cleared. He's good to go. Practice. He got injured early in the bowl practice, was unable to play in the bowl game, had an ankle injury similar to the one I had. It was a little bit worse than Tua's, but they did a great job in Birmingham. Special surgery they put together to help him. It's a bad version of a high ankle sprain, but the new surgery they're doing has worked great on him. He's been able to run in the off conditioning program. He's been cleared. He's done 7-on-7s. He's going to be out there ready to go today. So we're pleased with where he is. David Marshall, coming off Liz Frank injury he had last year, will be cleared, but not completely cleared. Like you won't see him out there today with you. Just had his screws taken out. So he'll be back before the end of spring. Just not sure exactly which day.
Coach, you kind of mentioned that tight end room for you guys is getting a little smaller. What are you looking for out of that, position this spring in particular?
Well, we get a chance to replace a really good player. Now, I think Charlie's ready to step up. He's been a great leader. Charlie does an unbelievable job on our special teams. He's really athletic. And, I think Fitzpatrick had a good offseason, so we're going to find out what he can do. We've got some guys working at that position we're going to get to look at, and then we've got guys coming in that are going to help us at that position as well. But it's always the same thing's always for the tight end. Jake has a comfortable relationship with Charlie. He feels good with him. We to find the best 11 players to put on the field, whether that's 2 tight ends, 1 tight end, or no tight ends. That's going to be dictated off the health of other players as well as the growth of the tight ends in our offense.
Coach, ask a follow-up question about Zamir White and his recovery, his rehab compared to the first time he hurt his leg, and ultimately, what you hope and believe how much he'll be able to contribute to your ball team.
Well, I don't know that I can answer how much. That's going to come into fall camp. I think anytime you have a non-contact ACL and then you have a second one, you've got to be careful because we're talking about 2 different knees and really a completely non-contact injury. So when that happens, makes you wonder, hey, is the kid going to be able to progress this time as fast as he did last time? So for us, he's going to be able to do he's running really well. He's doing a lot of straight line stuff. He's just not going to be involved in the scrimmaging and the contact part. So ultimately, how do I know he's going to contribute to the team? I don't know that. I'm not going to know that until probably early in fall camp. I'm very pleased with his work ethic. He knows that's his future. He takes care of his knee. He rehabs hard. He does everything we ask him to do. I think Ron is kind of one of the best in the country at dealing with this. When you look at the significant injuries he's with Gurley and Nick Chubb, especially in that position, so he has a really good to rely on in regards to that. And Samir's managed that really well.
Kirby is back here. Has your on-the-field fights with Alabama and your recruiting fights with Alabama relationship with Nick?
Absolutely not. I don't have any issue, any problem with any relationship with Nick. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's done anything but grown for more respect since we played him twice. Every time I see Coach Saban, we have a great relationship. We're not texting and calling each other buddy. We're not doing that with anybody. So that's not be mentioned. I got a lot of respect for him. I wouldn't be where I am today without him, and there's no problem with our relationship.
We have time for 2 more questions.
I was going to ask you about Charlton Warren in terms of your history with him. Did you know him through coaching circles? And how did he come on your radar for this job?
I did not know Charlton. We played against him when he was in North Carolina, and we were here in the first game, but I didn't really know him, had heard a lot of good things about him. I know that there were some coaches there at Tennessee that tried to retain him at one time. When Butch got let go, I just heard good things in the profession. Talked to a lot of different people about him, and once you did the research, he